What if I told you that a growing number of men aren't failing at dating? They're quietly walking away from it, not because they don't want love, not because they've given up on women, but because for many of them, the game itself no longer feels worth playing. A 2022 survey by the Pew Research Center found that over 60% of men under 30 are single. Now pause for a second, because that number isn't just a statistic, it's a signal. Something in modern dating has shifted, and a lot of men are feeling it. Let's start with the obvious: dating apps. Platforms like Tinder and Hinge were supposed to make dating easier, but for many men, they've done the opposite. Instead of connection, they've created competition. Instead of opportunity, they've created comparison. Studies and internal app data have shown a harsh reality. A large percentage of attention goes to a small percentage of men, which means if you're not in that top tier, you're not just rejected, you're often invisible. And over time, that invisibility does something dangerous. It doesn't just hurt your chances, it reshapes how you see yourself. Now add social media into the mix. Everywhere you look, you see the same image: the perfect man. Wealthy, confident, physically flawless, emotionally unshakable, and even when you know it's curated, your brain still compares. You start to feel like you're behind, like you're not enough, like you need to fix yourself before you even try. So instead of stepping forward, many men step back. Then comes the part no one talks about enough: burnout. Imagine putting in effort, starting conversations, planning dates, trying again and again, only to be ignored, ghosted, or replaced. At some point, your brain does something logical. It says, why keep investing in something that keeps draining you? So men don't just quit emotionally, they optimize away from dating entirely. They focus on work, fitness, money, or even just distraction. And yes, we have to talk about this too: escape. Psychologists like Fred Rabinowitz have pointed out that many young men are increasingly turning to digital substitutes, content, gaming, or adult media. Not necessarily because they prefer it, but because it's predictable. No rejection, no pressure, no uncertainty. But here's the catch: the more you escape, the harder real connection feels, and the cycle continues. But here's where most conversations get it wrong. This isn't about blaming men, and it's not about blaming women either. This is about a system that has quietly made connection feel harder, riskier, and more exhausting than ever before. So are men really giving up? Not exactly. They're adapting. Some are choosing peace over pressure, some are waiting for something real, and some are just tired of trying in a system that doesn't seem to reward effort. But here's the truth you need to hear. Walking away might protect you from rejection, but it can also distance you from something deeper: real connection. Not the kind you swipe for, not the kind you perform for, but the kind you build. Slowly. Awkwardly, honestly. So if you've been feeling this way, you're not broken. You're responding to a difficult environment. But the goal isn't to quit completely. It's to play differently. Less validation, more intention, less chasing, more self-respect. Because at the end of the day, dating isn't supposed to feel like a marketplace. It's supposed to feel like a connection. So now I want to ask you, do you think men are really giving up on dating? Or are they just tired of how dating works today? Let me know in the comments. And if this made you think differently, if men are stepping away from dating, the answer isn't to force them back. It's to change how they approach it. The current system rewards appearance, speed, and surface-level validation. So the solution is to reduce dependence on algorithm-driven platforms like Tinder and Bumble. These environments are structurally competitive and skewed. Instead, prioritize real-world proximity-based interactions, social circles, events, skill-based communities, or even mutual introductions. Attraction builds differently when people experience your personality over time, not just your profile. Second, shift from validation seeking to value-based self-development. This doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means building competence in areas that translate into real confidence: communication, emotional regulation, physical health, and financial stability. Research consistently shows that perceived attractiveness is not just physical, it's behavioral. Presence, clarity, and groundedness often outperform looks in sustained attraction. Third, fix the effort-reward imbalance. Many men burn out because they overinvest too early. A more effective model is calibrated investment. Match energy with energy. If there's low reciprocity, withdraw early instead of chasing. This protects self-respect and prevents emotional exhaustion. Fourth, reduce digital comparison. Constant exposure to curated lifestyles and ideal men distorts baseline expectations. Psychological models like the social comparison theory explain how repeated upward comparison lowers self-worth. Limit passive consumption and focus on measurable personal progress instead. Fifth, address avoidance behaviors. Over-reliance on substitutes, whether entertainment or adult content, can reduce motivation for real interaction. As noted by psychologists like Fred Rabinowitz, these patterns often emerge as coping mechanisms. The goal isn't extreme restriction, but intentional use, ensuring these habits don't replace real-world engagement. Finally, redefine success in dating. Instead of chasing outcomes, numbers, matches, instant chemistry, focus on process quality, meaningful conversations, clear communication, and aligned values. This reframes dating from a performance into a filtering system, where rejection is not failure, but information. Men aren't simply giving up on dating. They're responding to a landscape that often feels imbalanced, impersonal, and exhausting. When effort repeatedly meets indifference, stepping back becomes a rational decision, not a weakness. But disengagement doesn't have to be permanent. The real shift happens when men stop playing by rules that don't serve them. By moving away from validation-driven environments, reducing comparison, and focusing on grounded self-development, dating becomes less about competing and more about connecting. The key insight is this: the problem isn't just the individual, it's the system and the strategy. Change the strategy and the experience changes. Because meaningful relationships were never built on algorithms, perfection, or constant chasing. They're built on presence, clarity, and mutual investment. So the goal isn't to quit dating. It's to approach it in a way that actually works. Subscribe for more.